Chad Dobson not only helped start the Scoville Peace Fellowship, he helped to lead the MX missile campaign. He was a stalwart in developing the largest demonstration in American history ever. June 12, 1982 in New York. Chad was instrumental, then working for SANE. He's done many things since then, but I think you want to talk a little bit about Pete and the Scoville Peace Fellowship, or whatever you want. The floor is yours.
Thanks. So I was struck with what Toby said in introducing the senator, because for me, Pete played the role that the senator said Toby played. I mean, he was the man who said we can do it, and we did. So as Bob says, I'm a Utah boy. And as many of you who know your history know, since 1847 till 1896, when Utah became a state, the place had really been occupied by federal forces, and that for a long time we didn't feel good about the federal government. And out of that, I would say, that has come a very strong feeling in Utah that continues to this day, that we really don't belong as part of the republic, and that we're really separate, and we don't feel quite comfortable here. And that, you know, maybe there are good reasons for that, but that led to something, and that is one of the things it's led to is that we've always felt that, in fact, that when there was a place to dump something or to cause trouble, Utah and Nevada got it. So when President Carter decided that we needed the MX missile system, you know, it was planned to go to Utah. And so you ended up with a whole population out in Utah that didn't know what to do, that felt fairly alienated from the government, that didn't have real representation here in Washington, and were very dispirited. And we started looking around to say, who's working on this kind of issue? And we discovered that there were a couple of people, and the preeminent one was a guy by the name of Pete Scoville. And he was attractive to us because he had been at the CIA. And, you know, being a Utah and a Mormon state and all of those things, we thought, who can we bring to Utah that might be able to give us some cachet with the Mormon church and that they would listen to? And so Pete was invited, sight unseen. We'd known his writings and we read, you know, from SANE and others what he'd been doing. But we invited him to Utah, and lo and behold, he came. And we weren't used to, in fact, inviting people and having them come, but Pete did. And it was exciting for us, but I can tell you it was scary. I remember going out to meet Pete when the airplane came in, and as Tom said, at this point in Pete's life, he had two canes, two crutches that he had. And I saw, and we put a schedule together where he was doing something every hour and a half. And it was the way we ran things in those days. And I watched Pete, the door opened, and this guy who was about my size, a little less hair than I had, and having these two canes coming down the thing, and I thought, my God, what have we done? And then he smiled. Sorry. Frances Farley, who in fact ran the campaign in Utah, said Pete had the most beautiful smile she'd ever seen. And I think about all of the things about this man, and besides the fact that he had a brain as big as his smile, but that he had a great many gifts, and one of them was that smile. And it was a great thing to have him there. So here is this guy from the CIA on canes with a smile, doesn't look intimidating at all. And what you do is you take him in and you sit him down with the president of the Mormon church, and then he takes over. And so it was a wonderful kind of thing, because by the time he got in the room and they had the audience there, they were done. You know, and I don't think that we should all get canes or lose our hair in order to do it, but it was a trick that Pete managed, and he managed it well. But I was trying to think about the reason. Molly asked me why it was that, in fact, we decided to put the fellowship together. And the reason is that he came out to Utah to a group of people that didn't feel like they had a friend in the world. And you remember, you know, those of you who know Pete's biography, Pete is a quintessential WASP. He represents the Eastern establishment in a whole bunch of ways, in the best way possible. And so here was this guy that had done public service all of his life, was an Episcopalian, was smart as could be, went to Phillips Andover, went to Yale, had done all of the things, public service up to here, and that this was the guy that came out to say to a whole bunch of people in Utah that were feeling depressed, you can do it, you know, I'm here, I'll help you. And he did. I think the first time we brought him there was in '79, and he stayed with us through the campaign. And I remember, because we'd organized the campaign in Utah, and we figured out no one wanted to do anything, so it was decided that somebody would come to Washington. We had no money, no organization, nothing, and Pete said, don't worry, we'll take care of you. And I remember taking him to see my parents. I wasn't living at home. I was at university, I was finished, and we went out to Farmington, a little town outside of Salt Lake, and Pete went and said to my mother, don't worry, everything will be okay. So we came back, and as you know, Pete ran the campaign in his own kind of way. I can't remember a single conversation I ever had with the man when he didn't start or say sometime in it, how can I help? And that was really what he did. So the thing that he told us was that if you want to do something, no matter if you're from Utah or where, you can do it. The thing he forgot to tell us was you also have to have the biggest brain in the world. You have to work really hard, because that's what Pete did. You know, I cannot tell you, you know, his stamina. You have to be a very good communicator. He was a fine writer, a great speaker. You have to have a generosity of spirit, which he had. You know, the resources and the support and things that he gave to people were phenomenal. And you have to have a love for life and knowing that that's what you're doing. I had the first oysters I ever had in my life out at the house in McLean. Pete used to invite people out and serve us martinis and oysters. And for a Utah boy, that's something. Especially when it's from, a former assistant secretary, head of the CIA. Anyway, that was Pete, and that was why that when he got sick, we wanted to try and carry on what he had done, which was, for me, bringing people from around the country that hadn't had a chance to be in Washington and tell them that they could make a difference and that there was a place for them. So anyway, to Pete and to the family, lots of love. Huh?